Good morning and welcome to Mindful Movement with AARP Alabama. I am your host, Margie Curry, and today's session is with our certified yoga instructor, Becca Impello. Now, Becca has been practicing and teaching yoga for more than 20 years. We want to remind you that AARP empowers people to choose how they live as they age. AARP is a nonpartisan 501c4 organization that has over 420,000 members in Alabama. AARP's role is to advocate for those 50 plus and their families. AARP is committed to offering opportunities for everybody to stay engaged from their home. The Mindful Movement series provides an opportunity for you to keep moving in the safety of your own home. Becca!
Margie, hello.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. What do you have for us today?
Well, Margie, I was thinking that one of the areas of the body that I sometimes focus on in my other teaching, my other classes, and I don't think I've ever done for this session, is to focus on the hands and the feet a bit, right? So, there's lots of joints, lots of, stuff going on in our hands and feet, and we don't always give them, kind of the physical attention we, might give to, say, our hips or our back or our shoulder. So we're going to do some extra stuff today for hands and feet after we do a good full body kind of warm up, so that we do get the whole body moving, but we get some extra work on those small joints in the hands and the feet.
Sounds spectacular to get those small joints working. But remember, everyone, we want you to, before you begin any exercise class, please remember that you should consult with your physician to be sure it is safe to participate. All right, Becca, take it away.
All right, so when we do the stuff for the feet, it is going to be helpful if you don't have shoes on, and if possible, you don't have socks on. But I'm not there with you. I'm not going to force anyone to do anything they don't want to. Of course, if you're keeping your shoes and socks on, no problem. Do what you can do within those shoes and socks, and get what you can out of it. All right, so like I said, we're going to start with a little bit of breathing and a little bit of a whole body warm up here from the chair, and then we'll move into some things that are focused, again, like I said, on the wrist, the hand and finger joints, the ankle, and the foot and toes. Okay, so let's sit up nice and tall. Just take a moment to drop your feet into the floor. Let your arms hang down at your sides. You can close your eyes if you'd like. Imagine a nice straight line going from your tailbone right up through the crown of the head towards the ceiling, and just sit up nice and tall there. And just start to take slower, deeper breaths. I'm going to add some arm movement to the breath here in just a moment, and you can come along with me, although your movements can always be smaller or a different sort of shape or arc if you prefer. All right, so deep breath in. You can start to raise those arms overhead if you want. Exhale all the way out as the arms come back down. All right, big breath in through the nose. Let's try that exhale through the mouth. We have a big breath in. So sitting up real tall, trying to find that line going all the way through my spine, up through the crown of the head. 3 more of these deep breaths. Two more. One more. All right, so let those arms, hands rest in your lap. Let's warm up from the top down. So start with some turns of the head, right and left, noticing how you feel. We want to pay attention to our body and the sensations we notice as we do our movements and our actions, right? This helps us get more connected to our body, through our brain. All right, next time that chin comes over towards one shoulder, let's drop it down and try to trace a nice semicircle across the chest and over to the other shoulder, and then take it back down and across the chest. You're just making this semicircle back and forth. If you feel like going a little bit past the shoulder, you can kind of let that head roll up and slightly back. Tightness, stiffness, these are all, normal things to feel, maybe even some creaks and cracks, right? But you want to avoid anything that's painful, especially something that's, sharp, stabbing, or zinging, right? I just want you to back off of the movement if you're getting that kind of sensation. All right, now bring that head to center and lift it back up on top. Let's move on down to the shoulders and start some nice big shoulder rolls. Bringing those shoulders forward and up, and then squeezing them back and down. Again, you might get some creaks and crunches, cracks there between your shoulder blades as those bones kind of squish and push against some of your muscles that might have a little bit of tightness or stiffness in them. All right. Now go ahead and bring those hands in front of the heart, and I want you to pull and push. So we get our arms moving, but we also want to get our spine and our rib cage moving. So you can make this as big as you want to make it, with a big arch as you push the chest forward and pull the arms back. A nice rounded spine as you push those hands forward. Nice big breaths here. It's most natural usually to inhale as you pull and exhale as you push. 3 more. Good. Now bring those arms down to your sides. We're going to focus now down on the low back and the hips. And what I want you to do is actually start a circling motion around your seat, right? So shifting to one sitting bone, kind of rolling to the back, shifting to the other sitting bone, and focus on this area of the low back, hips, low waist, and belly, and trying to, just get as much sort of movement out of that area as you're comfortable with. All right, let's reverse direction, circling that pelvis and low back. And of course, the rib cage and shoulders kind of follow along since they're attached. All right, now coming back to center, open up those knees and feet a little bit if they're not. We're going to fold forward. Right, this is stretching for the low back and the hips. May also give you some stretch in the groins or the inner thighs, and then come back up tall. Fold forward. I'm pretty much keeping a straight spine. I'm just seeing how far forward I can move, and it may loosen up as you do a couple repetitions. If it feels like you're, somewhat close, you could drop your fingertips or your hands down to the floor, but it's not a necessity, not a requirement by any means, just an option that some of us may find is within reach, so to speak. 3 more of these folds, helping to stretch the back, loosen up the hips. 2. Now 1 more. All right. Good. Now walk those feet in a little bit closer, sit up tall. You can hold on to the chair if you need a little extra support as we start to march. If you don't need that support and you want to challenge your core, your abdominals, your back, your side muscles, try taking the arms out to the side. Now, as I march here, I'm trying to isolate this movement to my hip, my leg, not roll back into my pelvis. Not let my back, my spine, sway or round or lean. Okay, now let's make a little bit more of a circle, up and out, up and back in, just to get a little more mobilization going for those hip joints. So you're making the biggest sweep that you can comfortably make without turning your whole body to the side. And if your arms get tired, just drop them down or go back to holding on if you want. Let's do 4 more of these. Hip steps out and sweep back in, out and in. 1 more each side. All right, good. Back to center. And now let's warm up the knee joints one at a time. Kick and bend. Notice how that knee feels. Normal for there to be perhaps some stiffness depending on how much you've been moving it lately and, any kind of wear and tear that it's got in its history. This movement helps to get the joint a little more lubricated with its joint fluid and blood flow. So it's good for those tissues to get them moving even past that stiffness. All right, switch to the other leg, other knee, bend and straighten. Good. All right, and then bring that down, feet back on the floor, sit tall. Let's take a little side stretch. So reach up and over with one arm, leaning to the side, and then bring it back to center. Take the other side. Now, if overhead reach is not great, try taking your hand to the top of your head as you go into that side bend stretch. Good, couple more times. This helps us impact the shoulders, the spine, and the hips a bit, this side stretch. One more to each side. All right, back to center. All right, so now let's zero in somewhat on these hands and feet. We're actually going to start a bit with the feet. We'll kind of just go back and forth. We will get up to standing in a moment as well, but for now we're going to stay seated. So just pick up one foot and start to circle that ankle. Now we generally do this as part of our warm-up, right? Something that we often include. So again, pay attention. You might look at your ankle and your foot as it moves. Feel the sensation of it. Go the other way around. As you're making these circles, see if you can notice, is there any particular direction that feels, more stiff, tight, or harder to move through for this foot? All right, let's switch it to the other side. As you start your slow, big circles here. Again, pay attention. Notice how it feels. Is there a difference in sensation? For instance, I have a different sensation on this foot, primarily in the bottom of my heel, because I've had a little flare of, tightness there, a little bit of plantar fasciitis, it might be called. It's not, super limiting, but I can just tell a difference in my two feet as I make this movement. Switch direction if you haven't already. So it's something I just keep my eye on, right? I do a little extra stretching for this as long as I notice that there's a little difference in the sensation of it. All right, feet back down on the ground. Now we're going to do a slightly different motion for the feet. And this may take some extra concentration because some of these movements may be ones that you're just not that frequently, used to doing, right? We're going to try to keep our knees steady. The knees could kind of substitute and sort of move back and forth. But what I want to try to do is isolate this to my feet as much as possible. And I'm trying to pick up the big toe side, the inside of the foot, and kind of roll out to my pinky. And then I'm trying to do the other. I'm trying to put down the big toe mound, and I'm trying to lift up the pinky side. And again, I'm trying to do this mainly at the ankles, trying to limit how much my knees and the rest of my legs might be moving. So again, you may find that, it's really hard to make this happen. I haven't ever tried to, really do this one specific movement with my feet. And so if you feel a little uncoordinated, that's okay. Acknowledge that, but just know that it's a learning thing, right? Your brain isn't quite sure how to make this happen, but it picks it up quick as long as you give it some time to practice. About 3 more rolls in and out with the feet. All right, take a little break there. We're going to come back to the feet in a moment, but let's move to the wrist here for a moment and do some more specific loosening up for the wrist. I'm going to move closer just for a second. You don't have to get up. I just want you to be able to see. I'm going to hold on to my wrist, my forearm with one hand, right? And then I'm going to just take this hand and try to go side to side. I've got an open palm facing up, and I'm trying to go right and left, right? So these, again, may be small movements. They may be hard to coordinate because maybe you haven't done that before, all right? So don't get frustrated, just get curious. We're holding this wrist so that we isolate here and prevent some substitution. Now let's switch the motion and bring the fingers, the hand up, and then point the fingers down. So we're taking that wrist and stretching it into flexion and then into extension. All right, so got my fingers spread, palm open. Again, I'm standing up just so I can be closer to the screen so you can just have a better visual. You can be fine staying in your chair. All right, now let's combine this and see if we can circle. So I go to my thumb side, down to the pinky side, and up. And my other hand is just trying to keep me from twisting and moving in my forearm. Good. Now let's switch direction, go slower. One more time. Okay, and then just shake that arm out. Maybe give it just some easy circle. So nothing wrong with circling your wrist like we usually do without holding on. But just for today, we're trying to do this a little bit differently. All right, let's go to the other side. So hold on to that wrist. Go side to side first. Good, and just compare your two sides. You may have differences in how each hand and wrist move. Any amount of movement is good movement, right? You don't have to be making something that's as big as me or as big as someone else. Now let's go down and up. Even attempting a movement that doesn't feel like you're actually, going anywhere is still good connection for your brain and your body. All right, now we try to put this into a circle. Go to the thumb, doesn't go very far, down with the fingers, over to the pinky, up, other side, around. Keep it slow, focus, put your eyes on your movement there. Let's reverse direction. All right, and then shake it out. All right, still seated in the chair. We're going to go back down to the feet. All right, here's another one where we want to keep the knees steady, right? We don't want to make this movement happening from the thighs, right? So I'm going to keep my hands on my knees just to keep them steady. I'll lift up the fronts of my feet so I'm perched on my heel and then go out and in. So I'm just kind of swiveling on my heel, rotating my lower leg bone, right? Both at the knee joint and down there, related to the ankle. Also using this muscle on the front of the shin. Good, and then relax, come up on those tiptoes so the heels are lifted, and then drop the heels and lift the fronts of the feet. Try and start spreading the toes. Even if you're inside socks and shoes, make every attempt that you can to widen, create space between all those toes. All right. Now let's pause. We're going to come back to the hands. Take the hands together, palms together in front of the chest, and then interlace those fingers, right? You interlace your fingers, glance down real quick, and just take note. Is it your right index finger or your left that's on top? Okay, we have just a natural way of doing it, so just observe. And then let's turn these palms out in front, okay? Trying to straighten your elbows if you can. Keep a nice tight grip, interlace between those fingers. Really try to press forward with the heels of your hands, right there above the crease of the wrist. This is also a nice stretch for the upper back, so you can sort of press into that upper back, rounding a little bit more. All right, bring those hands up as high as you comfortably can, taking a nice stretch through the whole spine and the arms. And then release, and just give nice fluid swirls and circles as the hands come down. Feel a little bit of blood flow drop into those fingers. All right, now hands together in front of the heart. Again, interlace the fingers, but this time put the other index finger on top. So remember I had you notice, okay? And this will feel like your awkward way probably, right? Not the way you normally do it. And so it feel a little bit different. So notice that, unusual sensation, that sort of feeling of, sort of incorrectness within there, right? Just to observe that sensation, turn it out and see what it's like to turn those palms forward and do that same press. It may be a little harder to keep the fingers intertwined tightly. Again, try taking those arms up and overhead if you want. Lengthening, stretching up tall. And then releasing them down. And again, shaking them out. This time make a fist and circle those hands with a fist. Go the other way. All right, now let's go ahead and stand up because it'll be good for everyone to get out of the chair. If you want to stay seated though, or actually this next one is not required to be standing up. This is more work for the hands, the fingers this time. So again, I'm going to come close just to show you. I'm going to use one hand as my fist or a ball, right? I could use a tennis ball or something, but this other hand works just well, just fine. I'm going to take the other hand and just clasp over it. So I've just got my hand over hand. All right. And I'm going to keep a nice tight grip, right, with this top hand. And then I'm going to lift my index finger up. And then I'm going to try to make a circle with that index finger. Circle that finger. Slow, big circle. Go the other direction. All right, and then bring it down, bring up the next finger. It gets harder as we go towards the pinky usually. The ring finger is typically the hardest one to circle. So now we're on that middle finger trying to circle it. So you're trying to trace a circle in the air. Go the other way. You may find it's really hard to isolate. All right, now let's go with the ring finger. Oh, it's hard to even lift that ring finger up very high, right, in this position. So see what you can do. Might be a little barely there circle. And maybe go the other direction. Hard to coordinate, I know. Again, just know that this is good for your brain to do something hard with your body, something hard coordination-wise, not necessarily effort-wise. Whew, all right, pinky finger. It gets a little easier, actually, than the ring finger. The ring finger is the hardest, I think. I'm trying to keep all the other fingers clasped on that fist. Go the other way with that circle. All right, and then the thumb. I'm going to take the thumb and lift it up. And back down, up and down, up and down. Now up and circle. Go the other way. All right, and then just pause. Take the hands and just let them hang down at your side. Maybe shift your weight a little bit. Notice the difference in sensation. We had one clasp in a fist. The other we were moving, so they both got some sensory stuff going on. And then let's take it the other way. So just switch hands. You make a fist. Take the other hand over the top. Squeeze on that hand. Pick up the index finger and circle. Circle the other way. All right, move on to that middle finger. Again, it gets a little harder. Doesn't lift as high, doesn't circle as easy. Go the other direction. Move on to that ring finger, the hardest one, at least for me. Now, it could be different for you. I'm not going to assume that the ring finger is the hardest for you. Maybe it's some other finger. But typically the ring finger has a little less mobility in this direction just based on, comparison to the other fingers. Circle the other direction if you haven't switched. And let's finish with we still have the thumb, but as far as the fingers go, let's go finish up with the pinky circle. Now my left hand is definitely less coordinated, right? Like I just don't circle as smoothly because it's not my dominant hand. Go the other direction. All right, now thumb, lift and press down, lift and press down. All right, lift and circle. Go the other way. All right, and then let both hands shake out. Good work. We'll come to stand behind the chair so we can use the chair to hold on to. We're going to lift up onto those tiptoes and then drop down on the heels and rock back and lift the fronts of the feet up. So rock up, tall, lift, drop the heels down, rock back and lift the toes up. Try to spread out those toes again as best you can when you're lifting the fronts of the feet. Now, if you want to try to work on your balance, feel free to let go for a few of these. All right, now let's keep the heels, the balls of the feet, everything firmly down. You can certainly look down at your feet if you want for this one. Try to lift and spread the toes. Again, even if you're inside socks and shoes, give this a try. Just see, what connection you can make. Now try and put the 8 little toes down. I'm keeping my big toes up. I know this is hard to see as a visual probably, but I got my big toes lifted, my other toes down, and I'm going to lift all 10 toes up. And I'm going to try to put my big toes down, but keep the other 8 toes up. All right, so I'm just going to alternate. All toes up, little toes down, all toes up, big toes down, all toes up, little toes down. I'm trying not to roll in or out. We did that as an exercise at the beginning, but for this, I want to really isolate to the toes. I want to try to avoid rolling to the inner or outer foot. Let's do 3 more, up and down, big toes alternate with the other toes. All right, good. All right, now just pick up one foot and give it a few circles. And then step it back. A nice generous step back and lean in. You may even lean onto the chair. Get a good calf stretch there in that back leg. All right, step that back leg just a little bit in, maybe a little bit less than half the distance. And then put that, keep that heel on the ground and try bending the knee. All right, so I'm doing a different stretch for my ankle here by bending the knee and sinking into it. Puts a little bit different stretch on the ankle and the calf. All right, step it in, pick up the other foot, give it a few circles first. And then step it back, take that long step back, push into that heel, lean forward, maybe down onto the chair. Good. And then again, step that back foot in a little bit. And put more weight on that leg. So shift back a little bit from the front, bend that knee, and try to keep the heel down. A couple more breaths here. All right, release. Do a little walk in place. And let's sit it back down. We're almost out of time. I want to do one more thing for our hands. All right. And this one we can do with both hands at the same time. So just hold those hands in front of you or, right on your lap. You're going to try to see if you can curl your hand real slowly into a fist. So I'm going to go into sort of a claw-like shape. I'm trying to see if I can get just that top joint to go first and then the second joint All right, so I'm still open in my palm, but I've got my fingers really curled in. Okay, and then I'm going to take it all the way down into a tight fist. And then I'm going to try to uncurl slowly, let the thumb come out. And I'm going to try to keep my fingertips, sort of touching the palm as long as I can, and then slowly uncurl and open up. Let's do that 2 more times. Slowly curl the fingers into that claw, and then down and into that fist, and then uncurl slowly. 1 more time, curl it down, and uncurl, and then just wiggle and wave those fingers. All right, now let's just let the hands drop onto your thighs, into your lap. Feet settled on the floor. Maybe close your eyes. We're just going to close with just some awareness, right? So just mindfulness, awareness of your body, especially the fingers, hands, wrists, toes, feet, ankles. Take some slower, deeper breaths as you notice the effects of our work in your body. All right, and then open your eyes if they're closed. Let's take a deep breath in. Bring those hands to the heart. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks to AARP of Alabama for giving us this opportunity. And thanks to our hands and feet for doing some good work today. We hope to see you next week for Mindful Movement on Tuesdays.
Thank you, Becca, for that very challenging session and reminding us that our hands and feet are important. We keep moving. Everyone, we look forward to you joining us on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock for Mindful Movement. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Bye, Margie.
Bye, Becca.